Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 140th episode of Don't Forget the Popcorn. So, I'm a little late to the party, but I finally went and saw the movie together, and it got me thinking about a lot of things. And I wanted to talk about them. Now, let me tell you right now, if you haven't seen this movie, go ahead and click off this video for now and go watch it because we are going to be spoiling some things. But if you have seen it, go ahead and like and subscribe for a guy. I really appreciate it. Make sure you follow me on Letterboxd, Ralph Vader. It'll be linked below. Now let's talk about Together. Now, I'm just going to go off the dome a little bit and talk about why I think this movie is important when it comes to love and modern relationships. So, Together was released 2025, directed by Michael Shanks, starring real life husband and wife Dave Franco and Allison Brie. So, this movie is about, if you've seen it, you know what it's about. This couple, they live in the city, New York City, and they are getting a house together in the countryside. She's a teacher and he is an aspiring musician. Well, it seems like he kind of had a career, but it fell off a little bit. But the first thing you notice in this movie is the gender roles, and they are very much flipped and reversed in this movie. And I thought that was very interesting and a cool and interesting take on this film because ultimately when we get to the end, I think it says something, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But we see they're having a going away party for them with all their friends and people they care about. And Alison Brie proposes to Dave Franco in front of everyone, kind of embarrassing him a little bit, and he freezes up. He doesn't know what to do. And I just thought that was so interesting. And it just set the dynamic right away in this film about who is the dominant one in this relationship and who kind of calls the shots, because they're moving for her career. They're moving into a house that she seems to be kind of wearing the pants in. She's paying the bills, it seems like, for the most part. He doesn't drive. He doesn't even have a license. She does the driving. It is very much flipped on its head. And I thought that was very interesting for a modern setting. And I thought this movie tackled this very well because this is a thing that a lot of people, preach against. A lot of people think men should be a certain type of way, should lead the pack, should be the one making the money if anyone's gonna make the money. But this movie talks about how life has changed, and life has changed very much. Women do it all these days. Women don't need men anymore. Women make money all on their own. Women do not need a man's money. And today, women have big positions of power. Women get stuff done. Women know how to cut the grass. Women can take out the trash. Women know how to change oil. Women know how to fix a leak. Women know how to change a tire. Women know how to do a lot of stuff that men used to kind of take the lead on. And in the reverse, a lot of men are kind of falling back a little bit on some of those things. You see more men working in office type settings or doing jobs that typically a lot of times would be reserved for women. You see more male nurses these days, more male teachers. And I think that's kind of cool how this movie kind of shows you how society is changing in that sense. Now, there's a lot of people who don't agree with that and don't want to see that kind of a change. And I mean, you can see it in Dave Franco's character that he is a little emasculated when she asks him to marry him. And, I thought about how I, as a man, would feel in that situation. And I was like, I truthfully do not know how I would feel, but I don't know. I don't know. I really couldn't tell you, but I know for me, I'm not saying I'm a traditional guy in a sense that I think, women can't propose or anything. I think that's totally fine. I mean, people do what you want. What works for your relationship works for your relationship. I don't think anything makes anyone more or less of who they are, what they perceive to be, just because they may go against the norm in a certain thing in a relationship. And I think this film tackles all of that very well because you see when they get to the house who does the work? She goes to work every day. He sits at home, takes care of home. He cooks. She can't cook. And I thought that was very, very interesting. And I've seen that quite a bit where women don't know how to cook and the man does the cooking, where women aren't great at cleaning and the man does the cleaning. I myself, I love cleaning. I'm very good at cleaning, but you know, that doesn't mean anything. Do I like to cook? I don't like it, but I know how to do it. And, if I need to cook, I can. So, but I just think it goes to show that, people can take care of themselves these days, whether you think they can or not. But it's funny though, because, these two kind of, they kind of, they complete each other in a weird way. But I like how they went with the opposites that you normally see because it makes this story far more interesting. It wouldn't be that fun if the girl was the one who stayed home and the one who didn't work and the one who couldn't drive. You know, we see that all the time. That's so, how we've been seeing that since the beginning of time with in any story or whatever. But this film takes something fun and new and they do it nice. They do it nice and subtle. It's not super in your face. They layer it in nicely. They don't slap it with you. You get to take it in and, really get to think about how this dynamic works because there's a character in the film who says they complete each other and they're yin and yang. And I'm like, at first I didn't think about it like that, and then when they pointed it out in the film, I'm like, they really are. I don't know. I was just very entranced with what was going on in the first watch, but then I was like, yeah, they really do. And even though you have this dynamic with them where one seems like they really don't like the other one, that's not the case at all because Dave Franco's character, he doesn't want to have sex with her and she wants to. And typically that's definitely something you see in the reverse. The man is typically always ready to go and the woman might be the moody one who doesn't want to have relations. But in this situation, man, he is avoiding this like the plague, and it's so funny. And I was watching Marie Antoinette, and it's the same thing in that movie. And I'm like, man, this is just so funny seeing these men who don't want to sleep with their pretty ladies. And I was like, that's an interesting dynamic because when you first watch the movie, you're like, man, does he even really like her? Or is he just depending on her? Because he's chasing this adolescent dream, this dream of being a rock star, this dream of making it. And, he's in his mid 30s. He's closer to 40 than he is to 30. And, it's like, on one hand, it's like, hey, it might be time to let it go. And, you gave it a try. But he doesn't want to give that up. And I can understand that fully. He's an artist and he's always going to be an artist. That's never going to go away. And I feel the same way about arts I've done and tried and failed at things because guess what? I've tried and failed at a lot of things, but I never give up. So I feel him in that aspect. But, on one hand, those adolescent dreams are really messing with his relationship. And like on one hand, it seems like he really doesn't like her, but that's not the case here. He's just afraid to fully embrace because he doesn't want to let go of what he wants. But he knows deep in his heart the best thing for him is this woman. Because I do think this is a film about soulmates and how even though on the surface, from the outside looking in, there are all kinds of peoples and naysayers in their lives trying to tell them that they probably shouldn't be together. His boys, even her own brother, telling him, I don't know if she's the one for you. Her best friends, everyone telling her, I don't know if he's the one, yet no one ever understands someone's relationship. You never understand what makes someone's relationship work for them. And I think as people, as friends and family, oftentimes too much, we get involved in our friends and family's relationships too much and try and tell them how they should be when just because something works for you doesn't mean it's going to work for everyone else. Just because something may be unorthodox doesn't mean that it doesn't work or it doesn't work for a specific two people. And I think this movie tackles this very well because although these two, they seem like they have absolutely nothing in common, but they bond in these weird grounded kind of beliefs. And when you see them alone together, you get where the love comes from. And as they talk about the things that they've went through together over the years, you do understand how they got to this point. And although it does seem like maybe they shouldn't be together, it actually really is the total opposite. And let's just get into what the whole thing is these guys go into this cave and they get taken over by this I don't even know how to explain it. It's really kind of this we'll call it some magic just for the sake of conversation. I just don't have the words to describe it. But they end up getting cursed. Some may call it a curse, some may not. But they end up getting cursed when they go on this hike and fall in this cave, end up being in a place where they used to do these rituals where a couple would become one. And that's where the body horror comes in, because slowly over time, these two get drawn together, and I mean physically and not just in a sexual sense. Yes, of course we get that in the movie. We see them have animalistic sex with each other, and we're happy kind of when you watch it, but you at the same time, by the time you get there, things are just like not right. But these two are binding together, and it's so strange, it's crazy. And I thought this was a fun concept for a body horror film. And we've been getting blessed with great body horror lately. We had The Substance, just last year, less than a year ago. We've had The Substance, and that was one of the best body horror movies ever made. And now we get this film, and I'm not saying this film is as good as The Substance, because even though I think this film does hit on some great modern day relationship themes, I do think the themes in The Substance are a little bit stronger and they tackle them in a better way. This film does show you how people, especially young couples today, I think couples in their 20s, late 20s and 30s, they're really kind of afraid to take that step these days. Way less marriages, way less kids being had. And I think a lot of people look at it, especially older generations, look at it as a lack of commitment, but it just kind of shows you the state of the world we're in right now. And these two kind of get forced to look each other in the eye and say yes or no. And it's really cut and dry and black and white in that sense. Of course, there's gray areas always going to be in something like this, but this is a very cut and dry, do I stay or do I go type of thing, because they had a solution, and Dave Franco ultimately decided not to let her die, and they just let it happen, and it worked out for him. And it's such a strange and weird ending. And when I first saw it, I didn't love the ending, because a part of me felt like, well, the true love would be letting the one go so the one can be free and be happy, because this would kind of seem like a curse to be fused together as one person, right? But then the more I thought about it, I was like, they are yin and yang. They do complete each other in this weird sense. And it's like, what a way to take the ultimate leap of faith. What a way. Screw a marriage certificate. This is a way to say, I am committed to you, baby. I love you. I want you. And I ain't never going to be with nobody else. Because this is nuts. And this concept is absolutely amazing when you really break it down and think about it. Because I just was like, man, think about any lover you've ever had in your lifetime. It can be current, past, whatever. Is there any one person that you could really see yourself merging with physically together forever? I don't know, man. That's a pretty tough question to answer. And I know some of you listening to this might be like, hey, yes, I do know. I know I could be physically merged and grossly fused together with my partner, and we'll look like a weird hybrid of each other, and life will be great, happily ever after. I don't know. But hey, think about these benefits. One, you guys would need less space. You can get a much smaller house. You don't need multiple rooms, you know? Think about this. Cost of eating is going to go down. You're going to use way less resources, you know? It's basically going to be like you're living on your own, right? So I don't know. It's kind of like getting the best of both worlds, like being single and being in a relationship. It's like you always get your alone time, but you never do. I don't know. It's just a strange concept to think about actually played out in reality. But I mean, hey, this is just me looking at this movie and having some fun with how the world goes and the current state of relationships and dating, especially for millennials and older Gen Zs. And, I just think it was a fun time. I really enjoyed this film. And if you guys watched this film and you liked it, please let me know in the comments what you liked about it, what you thought about the things I said here today. I mean, this is just me having fun and thinking about this film on a deeper level with the writing. If you didn't like this film, tell me why, because I had to sit with it a little bit and watch it again to really kind of make up my mind with it. But I will say one thing. This movie is absolutely hilarious too. This movie is so funny towards the end. Oh my God, I was just dying, man. Dave Franco is still a comedic actor first. And these performances in this movie were great. The body horror was great. It paced well. It's a perfect runtime. It's not a perfect movie, but I do think it is a fun play on relationships. So, guys, like I said, let me know what you thought about it in the end. So I want to give this movie a score out of 10, and I'm like, still don't quite know what to give it, but I think I'm going to give Together an 8.5 out of 10. Now, this might be a candidate for top of the year. We still got a lot of banger releases that are about to drop very, very soon, so we got to see what's popping with that. But I mean, hey, who knows? Together could be up there. I mean, Sinners is still my favorite horror film of the year, and Weapons is still going to be number 2 there, but Together might be number 3 for me as far as horror goes right now. And guys, we're going to start talking about more horror on the channel because horror movies are just it right now, man. They really are. So, guys, if you enjoyed this video, if you made it to the end, I appreciate you. All right, let me know if there's a film or topic you want me to review. I have no problems doing that. Guys, like and subscribe if you're new here. Help a guy out. I'm trying to hit a goal, guys. I would really like to get 700 subs, but I appreciate you for listening, guys. Follow me on Letterboxd, Ralph Vader. That'll be linked below. I got a podcast with my buddy. If you're interested in more movie content, I'll link that below as well. I will be back next week, and don't forget the popcorn.